pro pathway to college tennis. Okay. So what is a pro, right? So to kind of begin with it, that's also a very important question to answer. Some people think if you have, a pro ranking, an ATP ranking or a WTA ranking, you're a pro. I mean, you don't really make money to make a living, but technically you could be a pro. Or but in our case, we are really looking at pros, people who are legitimately making a living playing tennis, right? So if you look at it here, don't go get caught up too much with the rankings. The rankings may be a little bit dated here in the slide, but if you look at the ATP, look at the number of players that played college recently that have turned pro, right? Like, I mean, we have several of them, Cam Norrie, Tracy. I mean, they're doing very good. Arthur Rinderknecht, he's from Texas A&M, from my state. He's doing good. There's several players. In the women's side on singles, you see a little bit less, but that's only in the singles side. In the doubles, it's full of them, right? Like, I mean, the girl that won Australian Open from Brazil, I mean, she's a former college athlete, right? Like, Olnos, Danilina, Ellen Perez. I mean, these are like slew of them making a very, very good living, playing, who are former college players. Okay. And obviously these are only, we're looking at like the top 100 players, right? Like the people that are top 50, top 100 here. If you look a little bit further down, there is ton of them nowadays. I was actually at a futures in Santo Domingo in December. Bernard Tomic was playing, my daughter was playing in that futures. I mean, for the women's side, everybody, like, probably I would say 85% were college players. So there's a lot of focus right now in college, especially if a player wants to turn pro, to help them to become pro. Okay. So in the fall, colleges are also allowed now to sponsor and take players to a certain amount of events, like the 15K, 25Ks, if the players already have points and they can get into the draw. Okay. That was not the case 15 years back, or when I played, like long time back. That was unheard of. Now, the college coaches expect the players that they want to give it a shot, and it raises the bar. Okay. So I want to tell you in this very clearly, if your kid wants to go pro and they're going to a decent tennis college, the coach is not going to come and say, no, I don't like that. They will try to promote that. Okay. All right. Also, I'm going to tell you the few other pros, and I'm going to tell you a couple cons. So here's the other pros. If you look at the top colleges, the top D1 colleges, which have a lot of funding, they are like any professional team, right? It's almost like being, into a Dallas Cowboys or something. If you go to the Stanford, their facility is like a top pro team. Okay. Same with, even if you go to a D2 team or a lower end team, they all have great facilities. So what I mean by that is they have multiple courts. A lot of times they have both indoor and outdoor courts. There's a coach, there's a head coach, there's an assistant coach. Sometimes they also have more than one assistant coach. Nowadays, a lot of colleges not only have one strength coach, but they have a strength coach dedicated. They have a speed coach. They have physios. They have also assistant physios, like trainers who come and help you with, the bandage and the massaging and all that. And they have access to mental coaches. Okay. So pretty much when you look at the program, if your kids are playing tennis and they're playing in an academy, and now you do the calculation right there, that's almost like close to like, $4,000-5,000 a month of support that you get free regardless of your scholarship, because this is outside of the scholarship. Whether you're on a 10% scholarship or you're on a 100% scholarship, you get access to all this if you're part of the team. If you are number one in the team, or you never get to play a meaningful match and you are the 11th player on the team, you still have access to all of these. Okay. So the infrastructure and the support is all there for the player to do it. Okay. The coaches also take you to some of the fall tournaments, and obviously the spring they play mainly the matches, the dual matches, but they are pretty high caliber and there is focus around. So these are all the great things that I talked about, the pathway to college, to pro. So now I'm going to tell you the other side, why a lot of them don't become pro. Okay. So when you go to college, there is it, earlier, like when they're juniors, a lot of players are, homeschooled, or they're doing some sort of an online schooling, or, a different type of criteria. Their focus is a lot on tennis, and the parents are there and they're kind of on top of them, and so on and so forth. So in the college, the kids are by themselves. If they don't have the drive, if they are not driving to go forward to be a pro, the college coach, in our opinion, will not push that. They will not stay on top of them and say, okay, you have to be a pro, you have to be a pro, you have to be a pro. Their main goal is for you to perform in college, and they will push you hard for that. That will elevate your level. If you become pro, it's great for the college, good for their recruiting later, but that's not their primary criteria to make you a professional player. So if but it's a great venue for people who want to do well, they're self-motivated. I mean, this is the place for them. Okay, but if your kid's not self-motivated to become a pro, at the end of the day, it's not going to probably happen anyway. So that's sort of the summary for the pros and the cons. And then also in the other side, we have also seen, with the several players that we worked with, they could become pro, but once they graduated, they kind of started evaluating, right? Okay, now I have a college degree, I'm living in America, and my friends are getting jobs nowadays, like really high paying jobs, and I have those jobs, and do I want to go back and grind in 15Ks with barely any money? So that becomes their personal call at that time, whether they want to grind this and do this or not. So those are some of the kind of because they have a choice at that point, right? If they didn't go to college and they're just playing, probably the choices are a little bit limited in that regard, right? So that sort of summarizes, the overall our view about the college, the pro pathway. So I'm going to pause here and again take some questions if you have any questions on this. So we have a question here from Dhiraj. How D2 women tennis player can move to D1 college and get full ride scholarship? What D1 college coach will look for player join D2 college 1 year back? Okay, so let's talk about the transfer. This was not something that we are covering in this. Of course, we know this is something in the platform. If you sign, you get the full rules about transfer and all that, right? So players get one free transfer. You come to D2, you come to D3, you come to D1, you want to get out and go and play 1 to 2, 2 to 1. It doesn't matter. You get one transfer without losing eligibility, okay? Which means you don't have to sit out a year, you don't have to redshirt, you can go in and play right away. If a D2 woman player want to go to a D1 college, the procedure is same. There is something called a transfer portal. So all the athletes, they have access to the transfer portal. If they decide to do it, the normal courtesy is they have to talk to their coach. They tell the coach. That's a courtesy. It's not a must-have. And then they basically put them in the transfer portal. However, as soon as you put yourself in the transfer portal, your current coach will know, and it's almost like a fish market. Everybody knows, everybody sees that you are in the portal, okay? That the risk that you take is if you put yourself in the portal, your coach can immediately stop your scholarship for the next season because they know you're out looking for yourself. So that's the downside. Now, what do the D1 colleges look? The D1 colleges don't care whether you are a D2 player or not. They will look at the UTR, they will look at the UTR, they will look at your performance in college, and they will make the same evaluation like they're taking a junior player. Will this player have a major impact in our team? There are several cases D2 players have moved to great colleges after playing 1 or 2 years in D2 because they were kicking butt in D2, and obviously everybody knows and they know the level. They look at the UTR and they decide. So it has nothing to do with division. It has more to do with the level of the player, the UTR, and the players who they are beating. So that's how the transfers work. So hope that answers your question, Dheeraj. Okay. Okay, so we have another question from Sanjay. Do college tennis players get paid? Yes, they do. So let me explain this. What does it mean, right? So one they get paid in the form of the scholarships, but nowadays also many colleges, not all, offer their players basically cost of living allowances. Okay, so because players have other expenses on top of what's covered, like cell phone bill, right? If you own a car, your gas for the car, things like that, right? Or you want to come home to see your parents, who's going to pay for your tickets? So there are some other expenses like normal life expenses that a player has. You want to go to the movies. So colleges do pay for that, and they pay a lot nowadays. If you are a good athlete and a college really wants you, some of them pay you up to per month. Some pay a little bit less. So those are those. So that's also very common right now. As far as that payment is concerned. Okay. Can you negotiate tennis shoes and springs for the racket as part of the scholarship? So typically, yes, you can. You can definitely ask them. Typically, most of the colleges, they provide shoes and springs and rackets, right? Even the lower end colleges do. And if you go to a college, if the kid is going to some college which has no budget and they can barely afford that, I don't know how much room for negotiation there is, but typically that's part of the standard deal, the shoes, rackets, and strings.